Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I will discuss about prototype design pattern. So as we know, this is one of the creational design pattern. So as it is a part of the creational design pattern, so it provides a mechanism of object creation. Prototype pattern says that cloning of an existing object instead of creating a new one, and can also be customized as per the requirement. So prototype design pattern actually basically used when object creation is costly and require a lot of time and resource, and you have already similar object existing. For example, if there is a one object and this particular object is taking lot of time for creation actually, then instead of create means, even we know this particular object it can be used in a multiple places. So instead of creating a new object when it will be required, because as we know it's take more time, so instead of that we can clone this the existing object so that it will not take more time, also it will reduce the complexities. So prototype design pattern provides a mechanism to copy the original object to a new object and then modify it according to our needs. This pattern actually uses Java cloning to copy the object. So as we know, this pattern actually not create means it's actually instead of creating the new, it's a clone of the existing object. So obviously it's having some advantages or benefit. So what are those means advantages for using this prototype design pattern? Suppose if we are going to use this pattern, then we don't need to means use of any subclasses, right? So it reduces the need of the subclassing. It hides the complexities of creating the objects. As we know, using this prototype design pattern, we are just cloning of the existing, so it's hide those complexities of creating the objects. As we know, if any applications is going to use this particular object, then this particular client actually it's not aware of this, like which type of object is will be, right? And it will also allow us to like add and remove object at the runtime. So these are the like advantages of using this prototype pattern. Now suppose if we are going to use this pattern as I says earlier, like it will means use as we know, like if the classes we need to instance at the runtime, then we are going to use this one. When the cost of creating an object is expensive or the complicated, then also we are going to use this one. If we are if we want actually to keep the number of classes in an application is minimum, as we know, for this creating this object from this using this pattern, we don't need get multiple objects, right? So these are the like situation or scenarios when we are going to use this pattern. And so this is a briefly like introductions, like what is prototype design pattern, what are the advantages when we are going to use this pattern. And so for better understanding, if we are taking one example like how we are going to create this one. So let's say suppose if we are having a list of user, right? Means suppose there is one user table in the database and we are going to load those data from the database and set those data in particular means object or maybe in something. So this is the situation, right? Now suppose if we want to modify this data into our applications multiple times, so every time what we are going to do, we are going to like fetch the data from the database, and also then we are doing the manipulation of this data. So as in this activity the database involvement is there, so obviously we need some kind of connections, right? So connection we need to open, connection we need to close, and in between we need some operations. So it's, as we know, it's a database open is very costly, so it will take more time and also like it's a costly, right? So instead of that, so what prototype design pattern is saying? So prototype design is saying instead means instead of load the data every time from the database, instead of that what we can do, we can create object once and then we can clone that particular object from the existing object into a new object for manipulating data. Meaning, like suppose we have created already, means we have load data from the database only once, and then whenever any object is required, then we can just clone object from the existing one with the in a new object for manipulating data. So this kind of copy, for copying the data, either we can use the shallow copy or the deep copy. So regarding this copy concept, maybe in future, like I will create one video for this one, how like this shallow copy and the deep copy is done. But for the time being, let's means just aware of it, little bit of understanding that for this one we are just use this kind of copy mechanism. So let's create this create one program. This whatever I explain over here, like there is a certain scenarios, maybe we need to fetch data from the database. So let's take one example, means we can write one class, for example user, and then we are trying to clone the object from the existing object into the new object. So let's create this program. Okay, so this is one of my Java project. Here I have kept already like design pattern related code actually. Like you can see the factory pattern, single element builder pattern. So here I will create another package for creating this demonstrated this prototype design pattern. So let's create one package first, like dot prototype. Okay, let's create one class. For example, let's say user class. So what we need to do, we need to first uh, we need to first actually here we need to implement the clonable interface, as we are going to use this clone object. All right, so clonable we need to implement here. What it will say, okay. Next, what we will gonna do, we will actually load the data from the database. So as for this one, as I'm not going to connect with the database but for the like just to demonstrate, I will create one method, and here actually we'll put some data like dummy data. So first create one list, like list, and it will be a string for example, and it's a user list. Next, create one constructor, default constructor, it will be a public. Okay, and here actually what we will do, we will initialize this list, new array list. Okay, next we'll create another parameterized constructor. I will explain why. Public void, and then here it's a parameterized constructor. Okay, and here what we will pass, list of string, user list. Now here we will set or assign this dot user list is equal to this list, equal to user list. Okay, next we will create another method actually, and the functionalities of this, it will actually fetch the data from database, get data from DB. Here actually I'm not gonna write anything like about to uh, real database calling, but we'll put some data using in the list, and which will actually look like that or here maybe we can just print out like fetching data from database. Okay, and here we will put some data in the user list. Dot add, put some name over here, for example Olive. Next, put some another list. Dot add Paddy. The list dot add, for example, John. Okay, so these three I'm keeping for the time being. Next, we will create one getter method so that we'll get the list of in this user list. Get user list, return user list. Okay, and we need to change this void to list of string. So this is done. Next, we need to override the clone object. It will return object and we need to clone. Okay, so here what we will do, we will first we will create one list of string, for example new list, new user list equal to new array list. Okay, next we will create over the collections. We need to use the for each. Okay, and here instead of this we need to get the this dot actually get user list. Okay, and here we will add the data. Dot add, or maybe we can say it's a user. So also here we need to pass. Okay, and what we need to return? We need to return new user it will be a user. So here okay, let me check what it is saying. Okay, here is a, we don't need to provide the void. Okay, this is fine, and here we need to provide the override. Okay, so this is done. Now we need to create another main method. So from there actually we need to call this method actually. Okay, so let's create this main one. Okay, here new class, for example prototype pattern test. Okay, here we need to write one main and first create one user object equal to new user. Next we need to get data from DB. So what it will do, it will actually initialize the data, right? Next we need to create another object for user, for example user equal to new user, and here what we will do, we'll clone instead of creating the new, right? And here actually we need to add the casting. Okay, so this is done. Next we will create another user, new user 1 equal to user dot clone. Here again we need to do the casting. So cloning is done. Now suppose run this one. First run this one. User list plus, first we will print the user. Okay. Next we'll print the new user 1, then new user 2, new user list and new user 1 list. Here we'll put the new user and here new user 1. Okay, so let's run this one. Okay, okay, it's not, means it's not the readable format, right? So we need to print it as a in readable formats. Okay, so instead of that, what we can do, instead of printing the user, we can print the user list, right? From here also get user list, and here also we'll print the get user list. Okay, let's run this one again. Here now it is print the data. Now try to modify some data. Okay, so we will try to, what we will do, like we will not update anything in this, means the original object. We will try to add one values in this here in the new user, and also like try to remove one user from this one. Okay, so let's try to, like first what we will do, new user, we need to initialize with some list, right? Like list of string list 1 is equal to this. Now try to add some value here, list dot add, for example Sandy. Okay, and same we need to do here, like what we will do here, we'll try to remove some data from here. It's a, for example, list 2, so list 2 dot remove. Okay, so let's check what data, maybe we need to remove the John. Okay, John. So here instead of that, what we will do, we will print list 1 here, and here we will print list 2. Okay, now let's run this one. Okay, so this is the line number 8. It's actually the original object. So in the line number 18 we are printing the original object. It's having the three records actually, Olay, Paddy and the John. In the second list 1, what data we are printing in the line number 19, we have added one extra data actually, like Sandy. So that's why it's showing the 4 records, Olay, Paddy, John and the Sandy. And the third one, the new user list 1, from this list we have removed John, so that's why it's showing only 2. So as you can see, we have Means after getting the data we can manipulate into this one without doing any kind of like effect, right? That's all for prototype design pattern in Java. If you guys having anything, please do let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video. Bye bye.